Um, Hello, Judge Kersey. My name is Emily Strauss. I'm with the League of Women Voters of Klamath County. I'm the current president. I don't know how much you know about the League of Women Voters, but we are a nonpartisan organization that supports voting, voters' rights, voter information. Nonpartisan meaning that we do not support any candidates at all. Sometimes we support positions after we study it, but we are completely neutral on candidates in any race. And I realize this is a nonpartisan race as well. And I have invited all people to join us. Not everyone has accepted my invitation. So I appreciate your being here. Would you mind starting, please, with just your name and the position that you're running for?
My name is Alicia Kersey, and I am running to keep my seat as circuit court judge.
Okay. Many people may not be familiar with the situation. What do you mean? Well, I have a couple of questions. Number one, what is a circuit court judge?
Sure.
Because a lot of people don't know that. And what do you mean when you say you're running to keep it? Could you explain that to voters?
Well, I was very recently appointed to replace Judge Osborne. She was on the Klamath County Circuit Court as a judge for 30 years. She was the first woman to be appointed as judge in Klamath County. And a circuit court judge presides over matters of first resort. It's a court of first resort. And by that, I mean, we're looking at criminal cases. We hear all the way from trial motions and even post-conviction relief trials for criminal cases. We have civil cases, family law cases, small claims, evictions, and a very small portion of our docket in this county is personal injury and stuff like that. So that's what I preside over currently. And when I say I'm trying to keep my seat, I am running to be elected as the Klamath County Circuit Court Judge for position 2.
Okay, so again, for people who may not know the situation, how did you get appointed, or why did you get appointed? Did the other person simply take
there was a
leave
long
or resign?
Judge Osborne retired July 31st, and she gave notice to our governor in early July, and then there was a long appointment process. It's a pretty intensive interview process. You go through a very thorough background check by the Oregon State Police. There were 4 other candidates. Judge Osborne is, you know, I think a giant in our community, and I feel very honored to fill her shoes and to be chosen to fill her shoes. The process was very arduous and a challenge, but an interesting challenge during COVID. It was all on Zoom, such as this, and I think it's hard to really get to know a person via Zoom. So
Sure.
One of my goals in this campaign has been to just get out and meet folks that I don't know, hosting meet and greets around the community and stuff like that. So.
And so obviously the state law required that having been appointed that you now stand for election. Is that what I understand?
Yes, exactly. If once you're appointed, you have to run in the next general election, and it's either a blessing or a curse that this is happening so fast for us. I believe it's a blessing because it means that we're all doing this politicking very quickly and then it's over. So.
Okay. You mentioned something about court of first resort. Is that what you said? I'm not familiar with that term. Many people may not be. What does that mean, first resort?
Well, you know, we often hear, and in the news all the time, we hear about the Oregon Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court. Those cases have to start somewhere, and they start in little courthouses all across the country. Our county circuit court is where those cases start, and that is where the business of litigation is done here in Klamath County. Even for folks up in Gilchrist, Lapine, our court in Klamath County is where they need to come for their traffic tickets. There are some other courts in the community municipal courts and the county justice court. But our court is the district court, and the circuit court for Klamath County.
Okay.
So you see like name changes and adoptions and stuff like that.
I see. Okay. Would you please tell us your candidate statement? Why are you running? What are your qualifications?
Sure. I've been an attorney in Klamath County and I'm committed to this community. I started out as the law clerk for our judges here in the community. I started out learning how to be a judge. I was the probate commissioner and on the water case, the adjudication, the Klamath River adjudication with Judge Wogan when I first came here to Klamath. I transitioned then to be a deputy district attorney for Klamath County, where I was assigned to the domestic violence unit and was the domestic violence prosecutor, along with our evidence-based sentencing program. We brought that into the county when I was a DA. And we also, after that, I transitioned to a private practice where I represented mostly indigent criminal defense. So I was a public defender. And I did family law, some wills and trusts, and some general civil litigation. But my primary goal as an attorney, and since I have been a lawyer, has been in the public interest. So I have on a very limited basis taken retained clients. I didn't need to do that. I've been working in the public interest since I began being an attorney. And I believe that now that I'm a judge, and the reason that I was chosen to be a judge for our county is because of all the community partnerships that I have built and worked, and these relationships with community partners are so important to how we get business done in Klamath County. For instance, I have deep relationships with our mental health provider, KBBH, our drug and alcohol providers, LCS, RRW. I have great relationships with all of the other judges. They were advocating for me to be their colleague throughout the appointment process and are supportive of my campaign now. I have the support of our county commissioners, Boyd and Kelly Minty Morris are both in support. I also have a ton of support from law enforcement. Even as a defense attorney, I understood that that is where my bread was buttered on, so to speak. The jail deputies have been such good friends of mine, and I really, I think the hallmark of my practice and the reason that I'm a judge are because of the relationships I built with my clients and the community. So I believe that I'm a judge because the community chose me to be here.
Okay. A lot of people.
And I would ask that folks, yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that because I have represented a certain population of our community, I have not been able to get to know the other parts of our community as well as I'd like to. So I just like to tell folks to go to my website. It's judgekersey.com and find out more. Also to come and meet me at some of these meet and greets we're doing, because I really look forward to meeting the folks in Klamath County and just learning about what their priorities are for our court system.
Okay, thank you. I think voters may look at the position of a judge and think, uh-oh, people get in trouble, people have difficulties with the law, people have to face a court and a procedure, and they may be quite fearful of that. On the other hand, you've alluded to the fact that there's a lot of other kinds of civil business kind of work that's involved in this circuit court position. What would a voter look for? What should they consider when they're thinking of voting for a particular judge, judicial candidate? What are the things that they can look for to make an effective judgment on the quality
Sure.
of a candidate?
Yeah, I can answer that. I think in our courthouse, each judge, there's 5 of us. We are all assigned to all cases. So that's about 65% criminal cases, maybe about 10 to 15 family law cases, 10 to 15 juvenile dependency, and that's child welfare cases, juvenile delinquency, those types of cases, and then about 5% civil. So if I were a voter looking for who to vote for, I would want somebody who has been in all of those places, in all of those courtrooms, and understands to the best of their ability how to, what both sides look like. So I believe I'm the best candidate because I have been a prosecutor, I've been a public defender, I have represented parents, I've represented children in child welfare cases. I've done family law cases, mother, father, I've even represented children in domestic relations cases. I also have an understanding of our Klamath River adjudication case. I have no conflicts on that case, so I feel confident that I would be of help to Judge Wogan in that case. And so really what you're looking for is a Jill of all trades. I believe that that's me. Anybody who tells you that they know every corner of the law is lying. The law is deep and wide and full of cases. And I think what you need is a person who's committed to applying the facts to the law, using the rules of evidence, and that's what I do. I'm not a policymaker. I just apply the facts to the law, and I act in the best interest of families and this community when I'm doing so.
Okay, thank you. We read in the news here about, at the federal level at least, at higher levels, appeals levels and Supreme Court levels, this term politicization thrown around a lot, that the judicial system has become political and or legislative even, and there's a lot of opinions about that. Down at the state and local level, does any of that apply locally?
I would say no. I think we do have some movement in the statutes that allow for some creative problem solving. For instance, in our court, we have 4 treatment courts. They're problem solving courts. And we work with community partners to create opportunities within the bounds of the statutes and the Constitution. I, as judge, can't go outside the Constitution. I can't change the laws. All I can do is preside and enforce and encourage decorum in the courtroom. So when you're thinking about policy making, you're thinking about the legislature, you're definitely not thinking about a judge like me in the court of first resort. The law is very clear about those things.
Okay, all right. You mentioned treatment courts. Many people who haven't been involved may not know what that is. How do these kind of what might be called quasi-court settings, how do they help the community?
Well, what we do in a treatment court is we give an offender an opportunity to be supervised by the court while going through a course of treatment. So let's say an individual gets arrested for possession of methamphetamine. We put that person, if they want to be, in a treatment court. We call it adult drug court. And then they are court ordered and supervised by community corrections and a judge to go to treatment. If they complete that treatment cycle, then their case is either dismissed or there's some kind of carrot at the end for them other than their sobriety. So we're holding these folks accountable to treatment. If they don't show up for their treatment, or they use, or they fall off the wagon or whatever, then the treatment court judge can sanction that person by sending them to jail, making them do community service. My favorite sanction is sanctioning the person by telling them to write me a report about what they've learned from their mistake making. And I think what you see in treatment courts like that is that we're giving individuals the keys to the kingdom, so that we're churning out good taxpayers, we're churning out good neighbors, and hopefully they're not reoffending. So a treatment court is really high supervision treatment, and you're supervised by a judge and a probation officer. So your feet are held to the fire of that treatment course, and it helps, it works.
Okay. One of the issues that currently, of course, is the COVID virus issue and isolation and social distancing and online connections as opposed to in-person connections. How do you see that those restrictions influencing the process of the court system and the court work and the justice system at this time here?
Mhm. Sure. I'll tell you that since this all began back in March, April, there's been a couple of Chief Justice orders that have limited access to the courthouse, but our courthouse has been open for business full-time since June 1st. Before that, we were still working. We were still processing in custody defendants. And, you know, when I was a defense attorney, I was still going to the jail every day. And I'll tell you that one of the most important things that I've been advocating for is what COVID has done is proven to us that technology works, and it works well, and we're grateful for it. But we have to remember that some of the individuals that interface with our court system don't have access to technology. They don't have cell phones, they don't have screens. If they do have a cell phone, the screen might be broken. So I've been advocating that our community corrections and our probation officers, our treatment providers, just give folks a little bit of grace when it comes to expectations. If my expectation as judge is that they're going to be doing treatment over the phone like this, I've got to understand that maybe that treatment isn't going to be the most effective for certain individuals. It might work for some, it might not work for others, because it's hard to make a personal connection when we're doing this. So I'll say that our court has been, as compared to other courts around the state, we're very proud of the fact that we're processing all cases, all types of cases. There are courts across the state who aren't doing family law cases until 2021. So folks' lives are just on hold waiting for COVID. That's not happening in Klamath County. This afternoon, I did a wedding for 2 individuals who live in Jackson County. They're not doing weddings in Jackson County. So today we had 2 couples come over to Klamath to get married in our courthouse, which I think is wonderful. You know, we can stand 6 feet apart. They don't need to be. And we can do the business of our court. We can do it safely.
Right. Excellent. Okay. What kind of questions, you say you've done some meet and greet with people to try to know more people in the community? What kind of questions do voters ask you, or maybe should voters ask you, in your opinion, and what kind of answer do you give?
Well, I think my campaign theme is protecting the Klamath way of life. So a lot of people want to know, what does that mean to me? What is the Klamath way of life? And I believe that the Klamath way of life, and the reason that my family is here and the reason that we're staying here, is all about family. It's all about supporting our small businesses, these quirky little things that we do in Klamath County. But mostly it's about our relationships with community partners. You know, we all shop in the same place. We all get milk in the same place. And because we are, you know, it's a small town and we care about each other, we go the distance when it matters. I'm really committed to protecting those relationships that we have in our courthouse, those relationships I've built with community partners, and our small businesses. You know, we really need to support them right now, especially in these COVID times where it's been very difficult for small businesses. So I love answering that. I love having that conversation with voters who come and ask me, what does that mean to me? Because then I get to find out what it means to them. And, you know, there's a reason we're all here. There's a reason we've all chosen to stay here. And that's unique to the individual, but I think it means a lot. And that community pride that we have here in Klamath is important.
Okay. You've mentioned community partners a few times. People may not exactly know who those kind of groups are, but I'm going to ask, in a largely rural area like we have, where yes, there's a lot of people in Klamath, but there's a lot of other land out there, and voters out there. What kind of community partners would they ever interact with, or see, or be aware of outside of the city proper?
Sure. Well, we have, for instance, community corrections. We have a North County probation officer. So if you needed to check in, they try to make it easy on you to check in North County, Crescent, Gilchrist, Lapine folks we have on supervision up there. We also have some, I know that Sheriff Caber in particular has done a great job of spreading his reach out our health providers, for instance, CHA, which is Cascade Health Alliance, those folks are the ones who administer OHP. All across the county, folks are on OHP. They do need to come to Klamath Falls to get medical treatment, but working with those types of community partners lets us kind of put our fingers on the need in those rural communities. We also partner with Klamath County DD Services, Developmental Disability Services, so we kind of have an idea about what those folks out there with special needs, the needs and services that they can offer. We also partner with the Klamath tribes in all of our treatment courts and all of our dependency courts. Those voices are super important. And one of my goals here in this role as judge is to be out in those outer lying communities and letting folks know that we do care about them. I would love to see us do, one day a month of court up in North County. We've done it before. I don't see why we can't do it now. Bringing the judge to the community is important because those folks live 2 hours away. And it is a hardship for them to get down here in the wintertime. So how can we reach those folks and make them feel like this is their courthouse too? Well, maybe we just bring it to them.
Yeah, that leads me to a final question. As I understand, circuit court originally meant those who ride a circuit a long time ago.
Right.
Do you still travel in your work, or do you just have one fixed location here in town?
One fixed location here in town, and I bristle against that a little. I would much rather be out in the community. That's the role that Judge Osborne played. She was our civic engagement judge. She was a member of so many different civic boards, community things that are just good for our community. She had so much to do with all of, Friends of the Children, Citizens for Safe Schools. And I'll tell you that back when the earthquake happened and they had to shut down the courthouse, they were scrambling to find places to have courtrooms. And so they went up and they found these opportunities. And I don't see why we need to be tethered to one place. I would much rather be on a horse riding from town to town and listening to those matters, because then I'd be getting some fresh air as opposed to being in the courthouse all day. But, that takes some creativity, that takes some flexibility. And, I would love to look into that. I also believe that, a lot of folks work 8 to 5 and we don't want to put court in the way of working. So why don't we offer a night court here? I would be happy to preside over that. And it's kind of a pet project I've been kind of holding in my pocket until after the election so I can talk to the presiding judge and see if she'll let me do it.
Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost finished. I would just like you to provide some kind of closing statement again to review your candidacy and why it is that you are seeking support.
Sure. I'm a judge here in Klamath County because I believe that the community chose me to be here, and that because of my commitment to the community, because of the relationships I've built with community partners, I think the most important thing is that I serve with honesty and integrity every day, and that I am fair and impartial and unbiased to every party who comes in front of me. And also that the judges in these courtrooms are using compassionate listening, and that making people feel heard and seen. That is my goal for every person who comes into my courtroom. And I love it. It's fun work. I want to continue doing the work, and I hope that folks will come out and meet me during this campaign process. I plan to continue doing meet and greets throughout the community after the campaign. Right now we're doing Tuesdays at the Klamath Commons for coffee at noon, so you can just come and talk to a judge. We're not scary people. We're just regular humans, and I want the community to know that. Thank you.
Would you please tell us your website one more time?
Sure, it's judgekersey.com, and on there you can find out more about me. You can find out more about our events, read more about my family, my children, my husband. and figure out where we're going to be. This Saturday night, we're going to be at Mia's and Pia's, so it'd be great to see some folks. That's October the 10th. So looking forward to meeting more people then too.
Excellent. Thank you very kindly, Judge Kersey. I appreciate your time here, and it's been very
Thank you,
helpful.
Emily.
I hope that voters will appreciate it as well. Thank you.
I hope so too. I